Hey, Brave Masters. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I'm your transformational mentor and business growth strategist, helping you get your brave on in your life and business. And so today we're going to learn a little bit about what does that mean, of course, especially through our guest story. And what I'm committed to is really eradicating unrealized human potential. That's the bottom line. And how do we do that? We do that by owning our life and our decisions and our choices, and really expanding our consciousness and self-awareness and self-leadership. So that's what I'm all about, and we're going to learn what Ameerah is all about. Welcome, Ameerah. How are you?
I am fantastically fabulous and so happy to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you. And for everyone that may not know, is the way we met is I was a guest on your show called Brunch and Slay, which we'll talk more about. And so, yay, I just was like, we connected so easily, and I was like, your story's amazing. Let's do this together again.
Right. It was a girl power moment, right? It was a lot of vibing going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel really blessed to have you, and the audience will have a great time as well. So first and foremost, just kind of introduce yourself. What's the work in the world that you're up to?
I'm Ameerah Saine, and I am a Texas native, a mom, a daughter, a wife. I have a fur baby who is 16, so I am an old mom. But yeah, I have a company called BAS Media, and we have a lifestyle brand called Brunch and Slay. And Brunch and Slay is my little I hate to downsize it, but it's my contribution to the world. It's my
big contribution to the
right.
world.
It's my contribution for bringing women together in a very organic and fun way. You know, I think a lot of times we hear the word networking, especially when you're younger. My younger self would hear it and cringe and never want to go. I knew it was necessary to move up, but I didn't really know how to do it. I was always intimidated by people who were where I wanted to be. And so I thought if I could create a space where women could do that in an organic way and build relationships, then maybe we could might build something and win together.
Yeah.
And that's Brunch and Slay. And that's how we started. Yeah.
I love the name. I love what your, purpose is. And do you guys meet in person, or is it like online, or like, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I get that question all the time. It's not we don't have communities or satellite sections. So we do different experiences depending on what brands want us to do. We've had a really good opportunity and a lot of great relationships built with brands. And typically they reach out to us and say, hey, we want to launch something, with one of your markets, and this is what we want to do. And we kind of curate events in partnership with them, as well as we touch bases for the weekly inspiration from the podcast. And then, of course, content lives on our site all the time. So eventually, of course, I would love to, I don't know what God will send in my heart to put out in different cities. I do think it's a need, but of course, I'm a control freak. And if I can't be there, we can't do it.
I know that feeling. I'm a recovering control freak. Thank you very much. I got real clear last year.
One day at a time.
One day at a time, right? Like that does not work long term. It's not sustainable. But no, I get it. And so I love that. I love how your partnership and your collaboration and just the purpose that you have. Like, I think it's brilliant. So congratulations on that. So speaking of some of those things that you shared, and it's like, you obviously have a story and you have a journey that has brought you to this moment called Brunch and Slay. And it's funny, you just listed all the roles: mom, Texas native, which I mean, fur babies, husband, a wife, all that. And I was like, yes, me too. And of course, then I moved to LA, right? So
you got fancy on us.
I got fancy. I don't know, right? But which I love, and that is certainly a brave move this year. But tell us a little bit more about some of the earlier brave moves that you made in your life that has just created the trajectory.
I like to think that my younger self knew where I wanted to go, so I had to learn all those lessons, up close and personal very early. I always tell people my pivotal moment thus far in my life was when I decided 100% that I knew what kind of life I wanted, and I just had to figure out how to get there. Right. I didn't know it was called reverse engineering at the time. Those trendy terms, they probably existed, but not in my circle, right? So it started I'll go back to high school. I always wanted to go to college. There was no doubt in my mind I was going. I didn't know a lot about it. My mom didn't go to college. My dad did, but they were divorced. So I didn't have a lot of guidance as to how to navigate the waters. I knew I needed to take the ACT and SAT, whichever one. That was fine. I wasn't a horrible student, but I was a B student, could have totally been an A student, but hanging out was way more fun, right? Like,
yeah,
just enough to get by and stay off punishment, right? That was like the goal, right? So I had a dream. I don't know why. I love the color purple is my favorite. So the only college I knew of with purple and gold was LSU, and it wasn't too far. And I love Louisiana food, so that's why I wanted to go to college. And I applied and did not get accepted. Unbeknownst to my 18-year-old self, I was totally clueless. I was devastated because I couldn't understand why I couldn't get in. Right. And that made me realize, okay, you got to figure out something. Not only do you need to go to college, but how are you going to pay for it? Because my mom has 4 children. My mom and my stepdad who raised me. It's 4 of us. So that's expensive, right? And how do you pay for this? And how do you get to where you want to get without taking all the different, there was a ton of ways to get there. I just had to figure out the fastest. Yeah. So my older brother had been in the Army. He was out and he was doing 1 week in a month in the National Guard. And he came to me and he said, hey, I know you want to go to college. I feel like if you go to community college route, you're going to get distracted. You need to go to a 4-year. So the Army was, at the time, they were passing a law that you would get free tuition if you were in the Army National Guard. Got it. And that literally was all I needed to hear. So I signed up to go to the Army like June 23rd. I was in basic training July 26th. Wow. Crazy. I know,
right.
Everybody else
on my radar as an option, by the way. I had to pay for my own college too, but it was not on my radar.
I didn't give myself time to think of why it wouldn't work. Yeah, I knew that free tuition and be able to be not only free tuition, because I could have paid my own way, but they still would have went off my parents' taxes. Right. I needed to be independent on taxes so that I can get financial loans. I was not going to be able to get loans or grants or anything. Right. So that was literally the best thing for me to get done and stay on track with what my goals were. Yeah. So I went off to basic training. I tell people all the time, I am the closest thing to Private Benjamin that a Black girl can be. I was so clueless. I had no idea how blessed my life was until I got to the military and I got to hear the stories of people who went there, because there were no more options. There was nobody sending a letter. There was nobody wishing them well. And it made me so thankful for the stricter rules that my parents had, and for a brother who looked out for me and told me to take this option, and it was very challenging. I'm not going to lie. It was not easy. No, it was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. But I literally we take these long road marches, like 5-6 miles, and you're carrying a rifle. And I remember in the beginning, I would be like so emotional doing these walks, and I'm thinking like, I'm not supposed to be here. This person was homeless before they came here, and I'm standing next to them, not in a class way, just like why am I here? And I would hear like a voice in my spirit saying, you're where you need to be, or you're where you're supposed to be. Yeah. And in that moment, I decided, take time in these walks to visualize your life, because my mother had taught me the power of visualization at a very young age. And so I would take these long walks and I would envision, where do I want to be in 10 years? I want to be a college graduate. I want to have this office. I want to drive this car. I want all the things that matter to an 18-year-old, right?
Right. 100%.
And I had a little pocket journal. I would keep it, I'd pull it out. And when we would stop and we're supposed to be laying in the grass with our rifle, I would take it out and I'd write like 5 things I was grateful for, whether it was the green grass or this plan. And then I wrote out that plan. And I visualized it so much by the end that it was nothing for me to ignite that plan by the time I graduated basic training and AIT, which is the training after basic training, and made that commitment. And that 1 week in a month really didn't bother me, because it was what helped me pay for my goal of graduating college.
The job you had to pay.
Yeah.
The funding source.
Yeah. Wow. So I left there not only a veteran, and I was able to shoot a gun. Never thought I'd do that, and shoot it very well. Throw grenades, all that stuff. I did it all. And I realized after I did that, I think I needed to learn that very early, because I knew that there aren't too many more challenges than thumbing a clip, twisting a pin, and throwing a grenade. Yeah. And not blowing yourself up. So if you can do that, you can pretty much do anything.
That probably is not on my list, but
Right.
I'm like,
Wasn't on
I
mine
mean,
either.
yeah, I mean, that's very eye-opening, actually.
Yeah.
You are right, though. It's like, wow, I mean, so much in that story. One, yes, your courage and brave to just even make the decision. And I love how you said, it's like, I didn't even give myself enough time to like really think through it all.
Right.
Which is interesting, because I think that is, so what there's 4 steps that I've identified as like how to get your brave on, right? I'm always about how do I make this practical for people. And one is to follow or listen and hear the spark of inspiration, the spark, right? The idea, the thought that flies in, and then sometimes you dismiss it very quickly.
Right.
But you heard your brother. You heard your brother, and you had a goal, but you heard your brother's idea. And then you made a decision, which is the second step, get off the fence, right? Make the decision, and then commit, which I think is where the hard part is. I mean, you make the decision, which is actually not the hard part. It's usually the easier part if you are willing to commit, right?
Right.
And then we commit, and then we take the brave action that's required among that commitment. And for you to, number one, jump into something that is not the traditional route, right? Especially for a woman.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just feeling you, because I'm literally, that was never on my radar.
Right.
And it just, like, I commend you, like, wow, what a place for you to say yes to. Right. And I love, though, that you had a purpose around it. You had an intention, you had a clarity of like why you're doing this.
Right.
And then I heard, the fact that you used an opportunity called the 5 mile walks or whatever to create to manage and manage your thoughts and create your future and create it's like using your imagination, using your visualization, because what were other people doing during that 5 mile? Were you aware?
The thing that I think I feel like I know now that when it's quiet is when I hear the spirit.
Amen.
I know that without a doubt. And I've always been a very social person. I've always been a magnet to people and to events and things of that nature. Right. But I was so vulnerable at that time. I think I could have gone in a lot of different directions. And I truly believe now that was God saying, I have purpose on your life. I have to remove you from some of these dumb things that you're doing in your 18-year-old self. And in those marches, you could not talk. So it wasn't an option. You're not lollygagging. They're teaching you how to save your life in a war setting. So if the enemy is there, you're not making noise. You're being quiet, and you're walking, and you are being alert. So, and that, the beauty of it was I was out in nature, which is my heaven, right? When I work out outside. I love to see the trees. I love to see the environment changing. So that part was already touching into something that was glowing inside of me. Yeah. But to be quiet, you can do nothing but hear. And when you're walking 5, 6, on up to 12 miles in a day, quietly with hundreds of people, right. No, that didn't even exist. We did have Walkmans and things like that. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, we're aging ourselves.
Right? Yes, we did. But it was enforced. I was forced into silence, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I can clearly look back now and see that all of that was laying the foundation to get me to where I am now.
Yeah. I love that, and I think, man, and especially at a young age to learn that, like, even though kind of the hard way, forced into it. And that's my point, is I still think you took something that was like, oh man, I don't want to do this. This sucks. I don't want to walk this again and again. And, whatever, like the complaining that can happen, because we're feeling like, less than grateful. And for you to turn it into an opportunity in that moment. And that's why I was asking, I'm like, what were the other people doing? Right. I can only imagine, I would hope that some of them were doing what you were doing, but I can also imagine that some weren't, right? I'm
sure there were plenty who weren't,
complaints or what have you.
Knowing I was there for the greater good, a lot of them were there because there were no options. There wasn't a plan B. Not all of them were there for college. There probably were 2 people in the whole unit I was in who were literally there to go to college. So for me, it was literally a 8-week countdown for that particular portion. And then the next portion, they wouldn't let us have calendars. I made my own calendar and I would cross off. It was a big thing to wake up in the morning and cross a day off because I knew I was that much closer, so I could power through. Because tomorrow was one day closer to walking across the stage and having my diploma.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I think that's very fundamental lessons that were being instilled, and especially the quiet. I learned that very late, called now. Like I'm in a year worth of recognizing that quiet is actually part of the answer.
Oh yeah, but isn't it a beautiful thing?
It is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It is, and I mean, I'm like sitting there going, man, I wish I had really learned that lesson early on. Doesn't mean I didn't meditate or get quiet or go, but I didn't take it on as much as I have in this, especially this last year.
Right.
And definitely, I think there were moments when I was there, but the fact that you had to have that discipline, and then now I'm assuming it's moved into more discipline in that way in your life. But so speaking to that, do you have a routine currently that allows you to get quiet?
Oh yeah. I this probably the last 2 weeks because I've been traveling a ton. I have not meditated every day, but typically I meditate every day, every morning before I touch any kind of social media, email, anything. I meditate for 20 minutes. I pray first thing, and set my intentions for the day. And truly not just set them, visualize them, run them down, ask a question of whatever I want to accomplish, and then I meditate. And I just am present in that moment. And then the world happens because it's just 20 minutes and I'm off. And if I'm really prior to, I think I told you this, what is this? This is November. So I think in about 3 months ago, for 6 months straight, I meditated twice a day. I was looking for answers to certain things and I wasn't getting them fast enough. So of course I got to speed up the universe, right? Like, give it to me now, So I did
this process.
right. I did 2 a day until I felt like the spirit said, don't do it anymore. And I was good. But I knew there was something, energy that I just could not contain. I could not figure out what it was. And I had to sort through that. And I couldn't wait. I didn't want to wait another year or 2.
Did it work? You got the answer or clarity?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I may have to double up.
Right. But you know what? I'm no good without meditation. I know the me without it. She's a lot. I'm a lot with it. I'm a lot with it. So just imagine.
I know. My husband said something to me the other day and I'm like, have you not noticed for the last 9 months? Not about me. I mean, he knows I'm meditating in the morning and he knows like that's kind of a new thing, new routine. But he just said, you were so calm and you didn't react to what I was expecting you to react, something like that. And I was like, where have you been? I'm sitting over here like, it's been a year almost of not reacting the same way. But anyway, so, people obviously will start to see. And like you said, we're a lot without it, right?
Oh, yeah. My friends say, I don't know how I feel about this Zen Ameerah. Like, I mean, and they notice it drastically. I remove myself from situations. I don't allow triggers. I filter very closely what comes into my spirit, from listening to the radio to what's on TV to even I used to travel Monday through Thursday for years. And my little guilty pleasure was getting Us Weekly and Star and all these magazines.
Oh, yes.
And I look at them now and I laugh and I think of how long I fed that other people's business and rumors into my life. Right. And now that would be the last thing in the world I would purchase.
What would you buy?
Oh, now I'm listening to a podcast or I'm listening to a book on the plane. I am jotting down thoughts because it's very rare for me to have that still time where there's not a 4-year-old, coming when I'm alone. So now I really just enjoy it from a different way. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I just posted something on my Instagram, and I'm gonna murder my own quote, but something about, because it was in the moment. I was like, curate intentionally what you see from your news feed to your new friends, right?
Yes,
I'm like, because I heard that, loud and clear, even for myself, and I do have a habit. I don't listen to the news. It doesn't mean I don't become aware of what's happening.
Right.
And I love, a friend of mine turned me on to the skim.
Oh, love a skim. Yeah.
I love the
Yeah.
skim.
Yeah.
It's exactly
It keeps
that.
us present. We know what's going on. Yeah. Yeah.
And they do it in a very kind of neutral, non-dramatic,
Yes.
lighthearted way. Actually, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, they're funny a little bit about it, so it's
Yeah.
light, and skimmed, like this is the top headline. That's all you need to
Yeah.
know. Like, I don't need to watch hours of the negativity and drama and
Yeah.
sensationalism.
Right.
And
And then you get to take a deeper dive. If you want to know, you
of
can
course.
easily go Google. But and I'm not as fancy as this quote is going to sound, but this is what resonated with me. Rumi said, what you seek is seeking you.
Yes.
And if all we're seeking is poison and negative thoughts, then we will never we'll keep wondering, why is this all around me? Well, you keep pouring it into yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, things
you
change
see.
when we start seeking different things.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. And me as well. I definitely dive into, it's like, what am I feeding myself on a daily basis? And, and even today I woke up and this week I got a little funk going on. I've got something on my heart that I'm still, kind of uncovering and figuring out and journaling about. And this morning, and I woke up with it, and I was like, just keep, just be with it. I did the meditation and journaled. And then I was like, what can I read? What can I listen to? That's, continuing to feed that soul part of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think that's important for people to get. And I don't know how much people really prioritize that. And especially with our social media and everything so prevalent. But I think it's really important for people to hear what success is made from. It's like, and we all define what success is. But I just really want to hone in on that for people to get. It's like, this is a common thread that I hear with people that actually are making the difference, changing their lives, finding transformation, hearing the answers, is they're getting quiet.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I wish I had done it sooner, but here I am.
I do too. I think because I think just kind of like what you said in the beginning, I was forced into it.
Yeah.
I made that plan because it was it was almost like being at a meditation retreat for 4 months, basically.
Right.
And because of that, just imagine the harnessed energy. And now that I look back, I see it. It was like that power, that part of my brain was open. I was laser focused. And I still had fun when I went to college, but I had a list of goals, and nobody and nothing was going to stop me from achieving those. Once I achieved them, and I achieved them all by the time I want to say my 26th birthday.
Wow.
After that, I was stagnant for about 7 or 8 years because I had done so much. I didn't even realize that it was because I had been working toward that plan for so long. When I got to the answer, I kind of crippled myself because I hung around some folks a little bit too long. I stayed in a position a little bit too long because it was easy and I had made it. But it was time to make it to whatever that next level. So that's when I started my meditation journey again. When I was at that end, because for about 2 years, I kept feeling like empty. I thought, what do I do now? What is missing?
Yeah.
And then I stumbled into meditation. My husband had already been a meditator. I thought, I tried, I'm a talker, so I couldn't get quiet in my mind. I thought you literally were going to be there, I didn't realize it was a practice,
Yeah.
And
it's not about shutting your thoughts off. Yeah.
And when I got to that point and I realized it, that's what led me to where I am now, because I realized that I must always be seeking whatever that next thing is, never stop being quiet. And I really wish I had kept going. Gosh, where would I be now? I mean, that brain was open. I don't know where.
You are perfectly where you need to be, right? That's the answer.
Right, you're right.
Yeah. And because I think we learn in the contrast. We learn in the this is what it was like, and this is what it's like after, or without it, or what have you. And I think, if we are always in our normal, like we get normalized is how I describe it.
Right.
We become this, like, this is what's familiar and this is what is normal for me now. And then we can't see the difference. There's no difference. There's no contrast. So I think we need those ups and downs and ebbs and flows in order to have the experience.
We don't sign up for
don't
them.
like them. which is
We need them. Yeah,
we need
absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
So is that also where Brunch and Slay started to come into your ideas?
In that quiet place, yeah. What happened was I was headed down a whole nother road of things I wanted to accomplish. I found some things I really loved and was passionate about.
Mhm.
They didn't quite work out. And my husband, I'd relocated quite a few times for work. And
Okay.
every time I would get to a new city, I would kind of become a little clingy and a little needy on him because I feel like I couldn't find people. And I really am a social person. That's where I thrive.
Yeah,
And
I can see
he
that.
said, hey, why don't you just take this time and try to figure out how to do that thing you're always talking about bringing women together and find the people who you want and do it, in the way you want it. And I
Awesome.
thought, that's cool. I'll throw a brunch. I love brunch. And for me, the name Brunch and Slay is, yes, that's trendy and people think brunch. But for me, when I go to brunch with my girlfriends, that is like the mecca of the week because we get to catch up
Yeah.
uninterrupted. We get to pour into one another. We get to uplift one another. We get to cheer one another up or cheer one another on. And after we leave brunch, we are ready to kill it. We're ready to slay the world. Right. And so for me, it's that feeling I get. So Brunch and Slay was an easy name for me. It came to me in meditation. It
Yeah.
made perfect sense. I didn't even have to dissect it. I knew exactly what the name meant. And I said, okay, I'll do a brunch and we'll see. I didn't even realize that I was going to keep on. I just thought I was going to do one-off event series just for my mental health,
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And then I did the first event and it sold out. And not only did it sell out, but I had sponsors reaching out from the first event, like before it even launched. And I thought, wait a minute, you must be onto something. Now, this is before brunches were everywhere and people were doing them all the time. So it was something new. And because of that, I knew that I had to dive deeper into it and figure out what it could be and give it the attention that it needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the spark of inspiration. Follow
Yeah.
follow the spark, right?
Yeah. You're right. That's it.
And see where it goes. And I love that. I think that's what takes a lot of brave is to be willing to follow the breadcrumb
Yeah.
and not always have all the answers or know exactly where it's going. Notice I love that you share it's like I had all these visions and goals and it's like in 26 I'm standing on the edge of the cliff going now what, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's certainly important for us to keep looking, being present where we are now, which I think is I struggled with that. That was I call it future tripping. Someone taught me that. It's like
Yeah.
constantly future tripping instead of like being present to
Mm-hmm.
where I am.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, dream big, right? Keep dreaming, keep envisioning, and if it's in your preview, as I call it, then there's probably something that is powerful or it's like meant to be for you
Mm-hmm.
and your life and your journey. And it's like, so allow it to be there. And yeah, I just think it's really important for people to hear that. So
Oh yeah. And I
amazing.
think, and I'll be honest, for me, the reason I stayed where I was at 26 for a while, because I already reached points that no one I knew they weren't there.
Like, who do
I
I
didn't
who do
come
I turn to?
right. And I felt very comfortable in being there. And I didn't, the success and the guilt that you have from some, whatever success, I use that term loosely, from attaining things, you feel like you're going to lose people you love. You feel like, especially at such a young age, you're still really figuring out who you are. And I just kind of stayed stagnant because I wasn't ready to let go
Yeah.
of those things. And I don't mean forever. I just didn't even know how to transition.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know. Yeah.
No, that's huge. It's interesting. It speaks to exactly some of the things I teach now is identifying our attachments and our resistance and
Mm.
noticing where our ego keeps us safe, right? It keeps us,
So we
not
think,
wanting to,
right.
yeah, so we think, right? The illusion. And certainly control and all that, which is just more illusion as well. But yeah, so congratulations on your brave and really taking
Thank you.
that leadership of self and obviously your life in general. And I just think it's amazing to watch. It's not about our age, it's not about when, it's never too late, right?
Right.
It's like whatever is next for you and whatever is up for you. And it's like my biggest thing is to create a sense of urgency for people.
Yeah.
Like in these conversations, don't hear it from a place of, well, she did it and she's already made it or whatever, right? It's like not in comparison. That's an ego trick.
Yes.
But this is about a sense of urgency. The brevity of life is real, right?
Yes.
It does not last forever. And that's what I saw this year with moving to California. I'm like, what are we waiting for?
Yes, yes.
Like, ask that question and
Yeah.
then see what answers show up in your
Yeah.
silence.
You know, my thing is, I will not leave this earth with regrets or saying I shoulda, woulda, I coulda. Just do it. You can. So what if you fail? Are you really failing? So what? You get back up. You learn not to go left. You go right next time.
That's right.
So what?
Again, the only way to learn
Yeah.
is to go left once in a while or whatever. So I love that. And it's funny. I've done a couple podcast recordings today, and Bronnie Ware, have you read that book? The 5 Regrets of the Dying?
No.
That book. So the number one thing is having regrets of not being true to themselves. You know, like really taking life head on, doing things that mean something to you, and not hesitating, right? And so there's like 5 of them, and I was just like, wow, it's going in my book, because I'm like, more people need to continue to hear this. I needed to hear it, and clearly it's come up like twice today. Is no regrets. That's the whole point of the book.
Wow, look at that. Once again, this synergy thing going on. Yeah.
Put your attention on. Yeah, that's how it works. Well, I have so enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed our first conversation on your podcast. So how can people connect with you and get to know more about Brunch and Slay?
Oh yeah, and I thank you again. I've enjoyed everything. But of course, I am very easy to find. It's brunchandslay.com, and it's at Brunch and Slay on all social media. So, and that's and spelled out AND, Brunch and Slay.
Brunch and Slay, easy enough. Wonderful. Well, as we and we'll put that link in the show notes as well, so they can easily click and go. And my final question is, if this was your last interview, if this was your last opportunity to speak to the world, like this is it, what would be the message?
Do unto you. That's Beautiful. It. If you don't do anything else in this world, if you do unto you, everything else will work out.
Yeah, love it. I love it. Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
You're so welcome.
Awesome. All right, Ameerah, thank you. Have an amazing day. If you guys like this, if you had some ahas or some just like, yes, girl, I get you. Give us some feedback, give us some love, send us put a review on iTunes, whatever works for you. I know both of us would love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and for Ameerah for being here. So let's go get our brave on. Talk to you soon.